I'm Bob Walley. I'm a lecturer in community leadership and a researcher in climate change engagement and communication.
So, Bob, can you describe one PIE activity that you've been involved in that you are particularly proud of?
Yeah, so a project that I've been running with Professor Candy Saxwell at the university has been quite groundbreaking, actually, and we're both very happy with it. It is one that investigates the experiences and knowledge of climate change with primary school age children, both in Lancashire and in small island Pacific states. So we've been doing a link-up project between the two groups so that they can talk to each other, learn about each other's lives, but also what climate change means to them and the different impacts that it has both here in the UK and also in the Asia Pacific region.
That's great. That's really good to hear. Were there any challenges you feel you found in getting people involved in this?
Very much so, yeah. Not so much here. Schools in Lancashire and other parts of the UK now, because we're expanding the project, are they're really keen to be involved because they realise it's such a good opportunity. Because how many school children have the opportunity to be able to talk to somebody on the other side of the world in a completely different environment, who lead completely different lives, even though there are similarities because of their age and the kind of things that they like. That, you know, they like to play and they like certain foods and all the rest of it. So to open up that opportunity to schools on the other side of here and on the other side of the world it's quite unique. But then actually getting schools involved that are on the other side of the world is where the big challenge comes in, because how do you do that? And that comes through making links with universities there and just finding those kind of connectors, I suppose. So we made a really good link with a professor at the University of the South Pacific based in Fiji, and it's pretty much been up to her to sort us out, really. And so not being able to be there on the ground where we can go and visit schools and we can go and have chats with teachers within the schools, obviously provides quite a big challenge, because with these sorts of projects you have time restrictions, and you have targets that you have to try and achieve. And so if you're waiting on people on the other side of the world, then it can be outside of your hands, really, to a certain extent.
Was there anything that went that didn't go as well or as planned?
Well, one thing that we had to adapt to, because we weren't sure at first where we were going to be, which kind of region we were going to be making links with. We're in the Asia Pacific because it's obviously quite a big region. The time zone factor is obviously quite a big one, because when we're awake over here, they're all asleep over there. And so we had to figure out a way of still maintaining that connection and that sense of connection, whilst the children couldn't actually speak to each other. So it was through recording stories and accounts and questions, and then sending them over and then sending them back. So we got it down in the end, but it was a challenge, really, to try and start that up, especially with the technology difficulties and restrictions that they have over in the Asia Pacific. So part of the funding that we got for the project was to get some technology that we could then send over to the Asia Pacific, which caused its own problems, because trying to send stuff to a small island in the Asia Pacific can be quite difficult, and it took a bit of time. But now that they've got that, then it's a lot smoother. It's a lot easier to keep that communication going.
What are the key lessons that you have learned from this experience?
Well, anything's possible. There's always a way, I suppose. Yeah, it's been really encouraging to have this kind of idea and then see it happen and see it be so well received. Not just with the children, who are getting a lot out of it and and learning things, having the opportunity to learn things that would never have happened otherwise, but also getting the academic recognition for it as well. So we've begun to make links with other institutions across the world who would like to use this, who would like to be involved in the project or do something similar. And our first publication on it comes out. That's coming out for an issue in June. Because we've presented our projects at conferences, and so it has been well received. And I think that's down to the visual aspect of it, because we've got all these recordings, and so we can make a really good project film out of that. And I use a lot of film to evaluate my projects quite a lot anyway, because I think it's a really good tool to be able to do that. But it's a good output as well. So to have a film that involves children from the UK talking to people and talking to children in the Pacific and back, it's obviously it's quite a unique thing, and it's a good visual.
Yeah, sounds great. What do you think is one of the biggest challenges of ensuring that there is meaningful PIE activity related to health research?
Well, I think it can be very easy to think that you have a really good project idea or project aim, and so as a university and as a researcher myself who has a particular interest in climate change engagement and communication, then that's my agenda, I suppose. And so one of the challenges that you have to be aware of is that this is something that is very important to me, and is what we're getting the funding for and what we're getting the research for. But you've got to be very creative with how you work with audiences about that, because that might not be as important as you might think to them. And especially working with 7 or 8 year olds, then could be quite difficult to keep them on track with any topic. But so you've constantly got to be quite creative with how you explore these things and keeping it relevant and appropriate to the people that you're working with, so that they do still engage with the project and they get something out of it as well. So it's not like top-down agenda that you have. It's more participatory than that. And so you have to think about how you can keep making it relevant to them and of value to the participants in the research as well.
And what top tip would you give someone starting PIE for health research for the first time?
Well, I guess on that line, then be flexible, have plan Bs, or have a range of tools at your disposal. So if you're going in with an agenda, like with climate change awareness, it is health related, because it is to do with people's health and their surroundings and connection with the natural world, but also what food to eat and all those kinds of things. But it's having that sort of broad base of knowledge about it, so that you can keep it relevant to your group that you're working with. And always be aware that you may have to switch your activities, or things may not go to plan as you would like, and so you have to change tactics.
My last question is around a top tip for sustainability of PIE activity.
This is another difficulty, isn't it, with doing any kind of research related projects and talking about the deadlines and constrictions that funding has, because one thing that I really struggle with is there being an end point to things. So sustainability is always kind of on my mind, and not in an environmental sense this time, is it? So it's kind of how the project can carry on, or how that value of the project can carry on afterwards. And so with any project, you've got to have there's got to be more of it than just more to it than just fact finding. It's got to also be of use and of value to the participants themselves as well. So whatever happens, they've learned something that they can use going on with their sort of future progression. And so you've always got to have that in mind as far as how you're running the project and what the outcomes will be, so that the sustainability comes in that it's not just a project you delivered and then funding finishes, project finishes, right, thanks very much. You know, there is that lasting kind of that legacy from it, I suppose, so that people will still remember what they learnt. And alongside that is having kind of online resources and films, project films and things like that that serve as a constant reminder to be like, oh yeah, that was a great project, and that highlights what they've learned from it as well, which they may not have realized themselves, but it's come out in your evaluation methods and your questions that you're asking them in the film.
Thank you very much, Bob.
No worries at all. My pleasure. Thank you.